Well, hello again, and welcome to week 12 of our ETI 421 class for World Campus. Um, Today, I want to just kind of discuss with you kind of a piece of just really, and over the next 3 weeks of my announcements, you're pretty going to hear the same type of thing, okay? But I'll have these announcements, and I'm going to basically be doing iteration as we do in the programming sense of what you really have to do as to finish up this class. And during the entire time of the class, the the things that I have assigned you were pretty much quizzes, so I know you read the book. There's two case studies that particularly I'd like you just to look to see kind of what your writing style is, and particularly something that you do on your own. But to me, the most important thing in this class, and this is part of a thing called a NACE competency. And that NACE competency is all the ability to be able to take the knowledge that you have, because this is where we're moving now towards new jobs with AI, is that you're going to have the computer can do the coding, the computer can do all the specific things you need, okay, with artificial intelligence. But your job is to do first this concept of critical thinking. And critical thinking means is that you've taken a problem and you've analyzed it, not just for the specific components and things like that, but look at a really at a global level. And that's what you're doing here with enterprise technology integration, is that you're looking at things at an enterprise level. And that enterprise level is being able to take whatever the business you have, being it's very, very small, maybe a one, two person business, to a, hundreds of thousands of people business, okay? And be able to integrate whatever you do with technology, okay, into that enterprise so that it meets seamlessly to every piece of the enterprise. And if it's just one person, that person has multiple hats. And you've got to be able to integrate what you're doing within what that entity, being an organization, a a big corporation, a small business, or just an individual type of business, to take that and put it into what their business plan. And their business plan is based off of their strategy. And what you need to do is that you need, as a critical thinking, to be able to not only understand everything that's going on, specifically within that business through interviews and looking at the processes and basically going in and understanding everything about the business. But then what you have to do is, now that you know that business, okay, can you take that solution and integrate that within that entity again, that corporation, that enterprise, that entire enterprise that's happening. Okay. So the real thing is that the first part that you did, and I've graded most of the things in terms of, of you understanding a proposal, what the project requirements are, and then the project plan and the current assessment. I grade that, and I said, yeah, you guys are on track now. Now, the last piece, and keep in mind, is that in that those first two pieces were your midterm exam. The final pieces are your final exam. And the final exam is broken down into multiple weeks. I mean, you don't have to do a final exam in 1 week, okay, or one period of time where you actually have to do this. Your final exam is to take what you know about that enterprise, build a solution, and then take that and then present that information to that stakeholder or those groups of stakeholders, including myself. Okay, because you should be really presenting to the audience that you created or you engaged, but you're also going to have to present that to me, who is also, I'm going to be taking the idea of a stakeholder. Okay. So the first things you got to do is that you've got to take those requirements. You got to take that, look at all the requirements, look at things they have to do, look at the as is type system, and then convert it into the to be system. And that the to be system can handle all the requirements that folks have, plus be able to provide a better solution that addresses the kind of overall problem that you had in terms of why do you want to change the system? Because you're not going to just change for the sake of changing because people don't like that. You're going to change it because, this is going to better their overall process. And that process those processes are mapped on those policy. And that policy is based on their overall strategic plan that they want to do, say, 5 years from now. So now what you have to do is, first of all, you got to come up with a solution. That's your system design. Okay. And also, as part of that design, you got to show me something. Okay. You got to show that customer something. You just can't write things down. They want to see, I want something that's a little bit touchy feely. And it doesn't have to be a program that's written or, because keep in mind is that I said this last week. Okay. All the code writing, all the development is going to come out in the beta test. Okay, when you go into beta, because you start to write that type of code. Okay, so that's kind of your next step, what you do in terms of the project handoff. And again, the project handoff is very abstract. It's abstract to a point where you only have to put in the necessary details and just enough necessary details to show them specifically, because you're probably in a bigger business or any type of situation, you're going to be handing that off to maybe a development group to say, okay, here's what the solution is, here's the information you have, and this is what we want to do. And that is based on the prototyping tools that you learned in 420, which are things like, unified modeling language that basically goes in and shows, process flows, state flows, things that specifically can be used to do, because you see the term model all the time. Okay. That model is based off of what you've learned with unified language. Because a lot of people that take this course that sit there and say, well, you know what, can I get by with 420? I said, the thing that I want you to come out of 420 with is that you know how to use and be able to integrate unified modeling language into a proposal. Because that's what you're doing right now. You're developing a proposal. You're trying to sell this concept to that individual group, because that's going to be your third step, okay, beyond the project plan, is a stakeholder presentation. And the stakeholder presentation, you're going to come up with two deliverables. First one is the PowerPoint or whatever type of presentation media you use to be able to show and then create a video, because you're going to be doing that. You're going to be presenting that information, and that those NACE competency tools is being able to present this solution, and you're all going to participate. Okay, but you're all going to put this in a nice, pretty little package. That's your proposal. It's a document that's going to be handed, because when you go into that proposal room, wherever it's going to be, you're going to hand that document, or you're going to hand that before you come into that. So basically, these are the things you should start to work on right now, because you should have your solution. Your solution should be pretty much wrapped up in your system design and the technical integration architecture and using all those pieces. Developing an operation prototype from very low fidelity to high fidelity, and then be able to take all of this information and integrate that into a stakeholder presentation. So that's going to be your challenge for the next, I think we're in the 12th week right now. Probably have 3 weeks if you take away Thanksgiving week. Okay. So, but I'm going to ask you to do your stakeholder presentation kind of the Monday before we end, because I want everybody in the class to also look at your presentation and review that presentation and give feedback, because I'm going to ask the entire class, not only during this peer evaluation that you have, is that the peer evaluation is not going to not only talk about your group peers, but your class peers. And your class peers are going to be based off of how you do that presentation. So if you're putting a stake in the ground, and I know that in your project plans, I've seen a lot of people go in and do this, that you're going to have to come in with some information on, or at least a project plan, to be able to go to this next piece of, developing this presentation and handing me a document and handing the customer a document, to be able to tell them the solution you have. And that's all the pieces and parts you're putting together. And that's going to be what's graded into your final exam. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Again, if you want to meet with me again, I know one group still hasn't met with me again, and hopefully you can get together with that. But if you want to meet again and you want to talk about that, maybe show you some things, I'm always willing to be able to have another meeting with your group. So reach out to me through email, and just continue to go down this pipe towards building this overall proposal. Okay. All right. Until next week. Have a great week, and good luck on putting this information together.